Hello, Stillwater. Welcome back to the Still Connects podcast, a podcast all about Stillwater, Oklahoma. I'm your host, Denver Evans, a born and raised Stillwater local and owner of Stillwater Digital Marketing. Each week, I'm sitting down to have a friendly chat with the local business owners and community leaders who help make Stillwater such a great place to live. Whether you're a longtime resident or just a visitor, this is your place to stay plugged in, stay inspired, and still connect with the stories that shape our community. This episode is audio only, and I will apologize in advance. The second half, I had some technical difficulties, so the audio quality for the second half isn't quite as good as the first half, but I think you're really going to enjoy it because I'm here today in Our Daily Bread with Rachael Condley, Executive Director.
Welcome.
So tell everyone a little bit about Our Daily Bread.
Yeah, so Our Daily Bread is a food and resource center. So we serve all of Payne County. Our brick and mortar here in Stillwater is on 12th Street, and people can come in once a month and actually select items from our shopping floor. We believe that provides a lot of dignity for our guests, and that, that's something that they can have control over, selecting the items that they get to receive. And it also reduces waste. Because I'm not handing you something that you may not be able to eat or know how to cook or something like that. So our mission is feeding our community collaboratively and providing connections that enable lasting change. And that's actually, the connections is actually what fired me up about being here, because I don't just want to help people in a moment, although I do want to help them if they need food. We want to build trust with our community and really help people beyond their current circumstance whenever possible. So we work really hard to not recreate any resources that are already going strong and going really well in our community, but maybe helping our guests find those or figure out how to enroll in them or apply for them, things like that. So kind of be that bridge to other resources as well.
That's really great. So how long has Our Daily Bread been around?
We opened in September of 2017. So not too long in this kind of world, in the food pantry world, but it was created as kind of a new concept at the time through the regional food bank, this guest choice shopping model that we utilize. And so there are actually 15 food and resource centers in our side of the state throughout Oklahoma. And so we work a lot with other directors, other resource centers, to really make sure we're doing the best things we can for our guests, that we're bringing in new ideas whenever possible, and that we're serving people really well, not only with food, but also trying to alleviate some of those root causes of poverty in all of our communities.
That's amazing. So how did Our Daily Bread kind of come about? So you started in 2017, you said?
We did, but actually some of the first conversations, I just got to hear the history presentation from one of our founders, Andrew Ranson, again the other day for our new board members that are coming in. And it's really such a cool story. There were several food pantries really in churches in our community, and through years of conversations and meetings and concerned citizens and organizations that really had a heart for the food insecure throughout the county, they met for years trying to figure out how to solve this problem together. The earliest notes that I found here when I started were in 2009. He refers to some meetings they had even back 2008 and earlier. Just people looking around going, hey, we're doing some for this problem, but how can we come together to help do it better? So eventually there were several concerned citizens and then 3 different churches, Lost Creek Church, the Church of Christ, and First United Methodist, here in Stillwater, between Stillwater and Perkins too, that just closed their individual efforts and came together and said, okay, we're going to put our resources together and we're going to send volunteers and we're going to support this bigger effort. The city of Stillwater came in as a partner and provided this building. Habitat for Humanity sent tons of volunteers, took about a year, I think, to remodel it. I've heard between 6 months and a year. I'm just glad I wasn't here during that time because I am not a construction foreman. We renovated our bathrooms after I started, and I just seriously every day I would walk in and be like, this has to be done soon. I can't handle it. But they came in, they demoed the building, a lot of it, remodeled it, so that it can be used as the functional space you see today. And the city of Stillwater actually lets us lease this facility for $1 a year.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So what was the city using this for prior to that?
Well, it was a Naval Reserve building, I think, way back in the day. And then Parks and Rec used this side for a while. It used to have a second story, which now I'm full of regret because I'm like, we totally need an upstairs, and they ripped it out. But they had to be able to make room for our coolers and our condensers and all the things that we use in our building. And I've heard it might have been a little unsafe. So there's no reason to live on the edge in a building. Let's just make it, button that down.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, so just the way it's renovated now, we have several office spaces, a teaching kitchen, our guest waiting area and welcome center, and then obviously our shopping floor.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So you all had a pretty big announcement lately, right?
We did. I like to remind everybody, like, I feel like I'm at Our Daily Bread kind of during a simpler time for fundraising and grant writing. You think about the first director, Becky Taylor, and all these founders, Christine Waits, Andrew Ranson, Rod Goodner, and so many others that were going out and asking people for money. We've heard several times, Kathy Sandifer had come in. Her husband was a provost at OSU. She had a history with food banking in the areas that they had lived in, and had some life experience with that as well. So all of them kind of were able to come together and raise money for this place without it existing. I've got so many years of data that I can say, like, we have helped this many people. We help this many people a session. Like, people go home with this many pounds of groceries. Like, it's pretty incredible. So they raised the money to start this effort with just like, hey, we think this is going to work. I still don't know how they did it. I think God had to have been involved in the process. But the opportunity for this money through the Potts Family Foundation, we found out about it. It was probably over a year ago through the Healthy Children, Healthy Communities organization that's in Stillwater. That's an alliance of lots of people that care a lot about families in Payne County, especially children, the resilience of children in poverty, making sure we're providing safe and healthy communities for our kids to grow up in. That we're alleviating the possibility of trauma for them and providing supports when necessary. So Our Daily Bread is a part of that organization. And they started talking about these grant opportunities that were going to come up for family resource centers. Mm-hmm. So, OSU has a family resource center. So my immediate reaction was like, what do you mean family resource center? Well, it's a place where, people can come and they're connected to resources. And I was like, wait a minute. We're doing that.
We're one of those.
That's what we're doing. Yeah. So, I'm sitting in all these meetings going, okay, all of this funding is supposed to be released to help pay for this. We're already doing it. So how do we get some of that? Because we're donation based.
Right.
I mean, the community supports us so that we can do the work that we do. So we do get some grants and some funding like that, but most of our funding is us going out telling our story and people writing checks. And so I thought if we could ease that burden a little bit from the community and do more of that resource connection work, like that just makes sense to me. And so, our board really researched it, made sure that it was under our mission, that, it was the things we were already doing. We are very sensitive about duplicating services. There are so many resources in our community and people doing what they do really well. I don't need to get into caring for people experiencing domestic violence because we have Wings of Hope. We have Seville Center. We have Lions Meadows of Hope. We have so many resources. DHS does their thing. The health department does their thing. We don't need to do those things. So we just want to know about them so we can accurately plug our guests into them. So when we wrote for the grant, one of the things I was really passionate about was getting another resource navigator. We had one. Our board had already approved one, which is why I was like, we're already doing this work. So we had already had a resource navigator for about a year. Full-time job is just connecting our guests to existing resources. So, we wrote for that, several other ideas in the community that could really beef up our resource connections, and we got it. So really cool.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So originally it was $735,000 through the end of 2026. They actually increased our award recently. So we've been, trying to vet some different projects without creating something that at the end of 2026 we can't sustain.
Right.
So really weighing and measuring all of those projects and making sure that we're benefiting our community as much as possible with that money.
Right, because you don't want to start something and do it for 2 years or year and a half or something like that, and then all of a sudden it drop out and people will be depending on that.
Exactly.
That's really wise.
Exactly.
Really wise.
Well, and it's, credit to our board who thinks 360 degrees around everything that comes up for this organization. They're incredible partners just to me personally and mentors and bosses, but they really care about Our Daily Bread and they really care about people who need food. So making sure that we stay true to the integrity of our mission, they help keep me on the rails.
That's great.
Yeah.
So speaking of, not necessarily of maybe some of those new services that you might be offering people, but what all services do you offer thus far aside from food?
Right. So we have a hair salon. So when we have volunteers that staff that, we're able to offer free haircuts to our guests, which has been a huge benefit for a lot of people. Haircuts are expensive.
Right.
And we've been able to offer people a haircut who maybe
I wouldn't know.
No, I mean, you've heard. You've heard that.
I remember back in the day, I used to have to pay for that.
Way back there. I know. See, you're saving money. That's what that's doing.
Right,
You're economical. Yeah, but so we had actually toured another facility that now they had a 55,000 square foot facility.
Oh, wow.
It's Mary Martha in Bartlesville. So they have, I mean, a full clothing store, a full furniture store, and a grocery area.
Wow.
But, you know, when we came back and as a staff, we were like, okay, what did they do that's a really cool benefit for their guests that we could think about or dream about or whatever? So we started talking about a hair salon. I called my friend Jennifer, who had cut my hair for a long time, and I said, how do we do this well? I mean, do we, you know, and not that we're going to be inspected because we're not selling haircuts, but like, how do we do it where it would go along the guidelines? Do we just need to go outside and offer pop-ups, or how do we? And she said, please don't do that. And she actually had moved salons, and she had some things in storage. So she brought us stations and chairs and mats. Wow. And yeah, she helps me to know, you know, what clippers we need to buy and all that good stuff when that comes back around. Glow Salon donated some things. We've got volunteers from Glow, Jennifer comes, and Loritz. We've got several people that just have adopted shopping sessions during the month. And so it's walk-ins only, and we know when the salon is staffed, we just have a sign up at the door, and guests are able to sign up. And, man, it just hits different, you know?
Yeah.
We've had people, I have a job interview tomorrow. Can I get a haircut?
Right.
Absolutely. They've done kids' first haircuts, which is really cool. So
yeah, because when people think about people who are in crisis, they don't really think about sometimes presentation and how, okay, I really need to get a job. And in order to do that, I need to look the part.
Yeah. And professional haircuts are expensive.
Very.
So if you're trying, you know, if you have hair that needs a little bit of shape to it and it's grown out and you want a professional job, that's really difficult.
Right.
So that is one of the things we offer on site. One of the reasons we felt confident in doing that, there are several salons in town that will offer free haircuts for back to school or something like that, but there wasn't a consistent effort we found that existed.
Right.
So and we started providing that, so that's been really neat. We offer hygiene kits and winter and summer bags for our guests that come in who are unhomed that need, you know, some things. So we have those. We offer birthday bags with partnership with several community organizations. It's a pan and a cake mix, and then a carbonated beverage, because you can use a carbonated beverage to make a cake mix instead of oil and eggs.
I've heard that.
It is true. I've never tried it, but I've heard that it really actually works. Yeah. So there's little instructions in there. Then like, you know, frosting, candles, all the things, decorations, and then an age-appropriate gift too. So if a guest comes in, they've got a child in their home having a birthday in that month, they can request a birthday bag. So that's been a really neat kind of add-on service. We're constantly offering trainings and classes and educational opportunities with so many of our community partners. Finance and budgeting through Bank First. We partnered with the Stillwater Library last year on several internet and computer basics classes, which was really neat to offer here. OSU Payne County Extension comes in a lot to do classes on gardening and nutrition and cooking.
Yeah, because you guys have the big garden outside.
We have the big garden outside, and then we also have, you know, lots of herbs and stuff in our courtyard. So Dia with Payne County Extension has done cooking with herbs, cast iron skillet, canning classes. That one's always really, really popular.
Canning? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, people are so into canning. We always flip a breaker, but I know where to flip it back. So that's been part of the battle, but it's fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just seems like there's something going on around here all the time.
Wow. So you all are pretty busy.
We are pretty busy, but it's good busy.
So you were talking about kind of how you partner with some other organizations like the Salon. You talked about how City of Stillwater is really involved. Who are some of your other kind of organizational partners in Stillwater?
Yeah, so Payne County Health Department is huge. They send out their community health worker to help with SNAP and senior care signups, answer questions about the health department. They send their mobile unit out to sign people up for WIC once a month. And they can even do recertification appointments here. So they bring their big mobile unit or get outside so that people can go in and even if they just have questions about WIC, which is huge because we know some about the program, but we don't run the program. So it's nice to have those experts on site. OSU Payne County Extension does a lot with us with education, but also grants. It seems like we've got so many people that look out for us in the community. If there's, grant funding available, they want to tell us about it. Our Lincoln Academy Marketplace is actually on the end of a 2-year grant from Simmons Bank that was $25,000 a year to help partner with a nonprofit to help an effort for a K-12 student group. And so we kind of had the idea of the Lincoln Marketplace. We had started it. A community member gave us all the startup costs. But then the last 2 years, we've been able to fund that completely with grant money through Simmons Bank. Lots of banks in town partnered with us. I mentioned Bank First finance classes earlier, Oklahoma Community Credit Union, CREC have all given us grants. It's so fun to see the community plug in their areas of expertise. Like you were talking about the hair salon,
right.
That's a passion. Yeah. People that do that and do a great job of it, they want to share that gift with people. So we're just kind of providing the platform. And people come in and they do their thing, and it's really neat. Obviously, we have a huge partnership with Oklahoma State University and the student farm.
Yes.
Every bit of produce they grow comes to us in Pete's Pantry for guests and people that are experiencing food insecurity.
I heard some crazy number about how many pounds of produce they...
Yeah, it's been almost 90,000 pounds in 2 years.
90,000 pounds.
90,000 pounds. If you think about it, lettuce doesn't weigh very much. Yeah. So that's a lot.
That's 45 tons.
That's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. They're making all that just right over there off of 51.
Yeah, right off the highway. And when I was in school, that was the pig farm. So right. I would come back from, going home for the weekend or holiday or whatever, and you would smell Stillwater as you would come into it. No, it was awful because that was, people coming in for athletic events and stuff too. That was kind of the joke. So when they moved the pig farm over on McElroy, then that sat empty for a long, long time.
Right.
And Justin Quita-Moss, the department head for horticulture and landscape architecture, always kind of had that dream to start that. Mm-hmm. He's been a great friend to our community garden here on site. And he came and met with me once and he said, do you guys have enough produce? Do you have enough fruits and vegetables? I said, never. Our guests always want more than they can get. And we want to give them as much as we can because that's the healthy stuff. Yeah. I'm a dietitian by trade, so I would much rather give people really healthy items than 4 dozen 3-day-old donuts. I just...
Yeah, that makes sense.
Here's some diabetes. That's not what we want to do.
Right.
At all. We don't want our guests to have to wait a long time. So we've had to be inventive. How can we help them, the ones that are coming that need to get out of here more quickly? How can we have kind of a self-select service, but also get them groceries quick because they need food?
Right.
So we've come up with some inventive ways. Our staff is incredible. And they really want to problem solve with guests at the heart of everything we do. So just the outside the box thinking. I love our staff meetings because inevitably I'll take something to staff meeting and go, okay, I need you guys' brain on this. And we come up with a solution that's so much more creative and practical than I ever would have thought possible. We also have a guest advocate committee now of some of our guests that meet every other month. And so I love taking things to them because we had a particular issue that some people forget their return date. They're eligible to come back after a certain amount of time, and we give them a card, but sometimes they lose it. And so we were trying to think, how could we, that some people are embarrassed to call back and say, I don't know when I'm eligible.
Right.
So we were trying to problem solve and brainstorm, how could we put some portal where they enter their date that they came, and then it pops up with their date. And one of our guest advocates said, can you not just put a calendar on there, like a chart that says if you were here this date, you can come back this date.
That makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
We just looked at each other, Kennedy and I, and we were like, wow, we made that a lot harder than it needed to be. That it takes everybody speaking into our service to continue to improve, to continue to do things well, and to continue to help people in better ways, which is why we're here.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to Still Connect. I'm so glad you joined us for this week's chat. There's always more where that came from. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay in the loop, as well as share this podcast with all of your Stillwater friends so that we can grow this podcast, these conversations, and ultimately our community. If you want to go a step further and help bring these stories to life, consider supporting the podcast on Patreon. No matter what your capacity for supporting the podcast is, every little bit helps grow this amazing community, and we all need community. So even when life gets busy, make sure you still connect.